Lane Kiffin responds to Paul Finebaum giving out goat fuel. We'll explain what that means. This is an extra post-practice edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining me for this post-practice extra edition of the show. Lane Kiffin was all about being nice to Nick Saban. He was all about respecting the Tide, which he should, because we will explain why in just a second. But this is a game that I'm feeling more and more good about Ole Miss as the week goes on. As this gets further away and gets closer to the game actually happening, I feel better about it. Now, Alabama is probably going to provide and give the best that they have. The absolute best that they have, but you would expect nothing less from a Nick Saban coach team. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, such as YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and of course, participate in the conversation by commenting down below and hitting and upvoting the video itself. We'd appreciate it very much. Anyway, yeah, Paul Finebaum apparently wrote another article that the Alabama dynasty is over, and every time, I think this is like the 7th time Finebaum has written that article. And now every time Nick Saban goes out and wins, Lane Kiffin was, joking about it. It's like, way to bring that up and do that. And then basically Kiffin also pointed out in the press conference that Alabama, even though they are 7-2, they are literally 2 plays away from 9-0 and number 1 in the country. The other side of that is they're also 2 plays away from 5-4, but Kiffin didn't talk about that very much. And he also mentioned the home streak. This is obviously a source of pride for him. So, as this goes on, he will talk about it more and more, but, it kind of is what it is when it comes to Lane Kiffin and this home winning streak. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I do want to let you know that BetOnline.net is our number 1 source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer to esports. We've got it on BetOnline.net. Now, if you see below, you can see the line down there. The line has dropped to Bama being favored by 11.5. The over-under is still at 64. Alabama might be the number 9 team, Ole Miss the number 11 team. This would still be an upset if Ole Miss was able to pull that out. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. Also, I want to tell you about LinkedIn. These days, every potential new hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That is why you check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. There's websites all over the place where you can just build a profile and get that perfect professional setup done. And then once that's done, you can head there and put a hashtag hiring frame on the profile, and that'll let everybody in your network know that you're hiring, and they can help you find the right people for your job. They've got simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. That's really cool. It really is. Anyway, we're going to get to it. Lane Kiffin is the only person that spoke today. Coming off of bye week, he had his press conference, all that. We got about 6 minutes of Lane Kiffin answers for you guys. We've got John Avery tomorrow on the show, the full interview that evening. We got Corey Burton coming on as a high school coach to talk about the Ole Miss run game. We got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. We are going hard today, and I think we will have a Locked On Now at least, maybe even a post-game pod following tonight's Ole Miss game. We don't know if we're going to do that. We'll see how we feel, but there's a chance that could happen. Anyway, here's Lane Kiffin talking about the Alabama game.
All right, so obviously no game recap. Was really good to see a lot of guys back healthy for the most part. Obviously we don't go into details on individuals, but that's the best we've looked in a long time, probably since the beginning of training camp, to have so many guys out there moving around. So that was great. Glad to be coming back home. Extremely challenging opponent. Now we have the combination of elite players with elite coaching, and so this is the best of the best. I texted Finebaum on the way over here when I saw him, his quotes like he normally does, and says the Nick Saban dynasty is over and all that, and every time he says this, which I tell him, all he does is I call it like goat fuel, opposite of rat poison. He's just like giving the goat fuel, which for him that works, and he goes and proves them wrong every time. So really appreciate Paul saying that right after the game. I'm sure that was on his desk Sunday morning. So they always ready to play. They always rebound over the years, and you're going to go play the best offensive player in the country and the best defensive player in the country. So very challenging situation, but glad to be home. Had a nice long home winning streak here, and would obviously assume the crowd will be great. Well, there weren't many of them. There were only three. There were only 2 regular seasons in 3 years, both to Ole Miss. I thought he was phenomenal. You would maybe expect it to be the other way, like he comes in and everything's the end of the world, like some coaches do. He does a really good job of addressing exactly what it was. And remember, guys, like Finebaum's stupid statement, dynasty's over. They've lost 2 games by 2 plays. Both games could win either way. Alabama makes the field goal at Tennessee, and 2-point gets stopped. And they're number 1, number 2 team in the country coming in here. So we're talking about 2 plays, 2 teams on the road in 2 of the hardest environments, over 100,000 people at both games to play in. So this is a great team, and the best coach to ever do it. I don't know. I still think we have depth issues, especially as the injuries were mounting. We certainly did. They've showed up a lot on defense. It's easily noticed our defensive issues once we lost some people over these last few weeks, and our numbers over there have been dramatically different. So I do think we're better than I've said all along. This is our best roster of the 3 years of collection of talent, but it does not mean it'll be the best team. So we're still coming together. I know that sounds crazy this late in the year, but with so many pieces, and I don't know, I think it says in there 55% or something of the team's new, something like that. So, hopefully we keep moving up. I think that's probably just later in the career. It's fresher coming off of it. Being there the 3 years, I was with Coach Carroll for 6 years, and been with my dad forever. So I think that's more just because it was the latest part, and you took a lot of how that was done, and then that was done in the SEC, in this region, the way Coach did it and stuff. So I think that's more just a combination of those 2 things. I'm sure it sounds crazy. We don't sit and talk about Bama Week and all that everybody else in the country seems to do. We got a lot of things to work on to get better, and it really doesn't matter. It matters that you do things really well. That's how you win games. I didn't notice anything different, but I'm glad I didn't, because that's not how we train them, because we don't want to be a program like that. We get up for these games, but we don't for these. That's what I get mad at our fans for doing. So we're not supposed to do that. I think he's just such a unique combination of speed and power. He reduces down and plays on guards, which is very unusual, and then he speed rushes, and then he drops too. So that really doesn't seem to happen now as much. That was kind of the old 3-4 outside backer and then reduce, but he still does that. So it's just really unique combination, and he plays with relentless effort. I don't, and maybe I'm wrong for that, just never have. Our players, we treat this like, we tell them pro mindset. We're here to work and get better every day and worry about what we can control. So we don't even talk about that. Well, that kind of gets into a lot of game planning stuff, but these guys have great players and great schemes. That's not the typical rat boys. They do. You look at the draft every year and you'll see it again this year, and not often that you got a returning Heisman Trophy winner and the best player in the country, at positions where one touches the ball every down and the other one's lined up really close to the quarterback. So those are really the two best positions to have the best players at. So you got to do everything right in order to beat these guys. You got to coach really well, play really well, win situations, manage things, take risks. There's a reason why they're the best over time, what they do. And again, we're talking about when they played them, two of the hottest teams in the country, on the road in two of the hardest environments to play, and they were one-play games. Or we're talking about, really if they win those two, then they're the number one team in the country coming in here. Yeah, great player. Really dynamic in what he does and gives you issues, and like you said, not old school, but really their offense isn't either. So he really fits into what their offense is, because that's not the old Alabama offense from years ago either. He's not the big bruising back that from a long time ago. So, and Bryce certainly isn't the physical stature of the old school quarterback. So I think it just fits in really well with what they do.